Welcome to Hungary. It's really a beautiful place.
The beginnings. They originally came from Asia. Did you know that?
No.
No, because we don't look like Asians, right? And there's a reason for that. You'd like to understand it. So, what people have been nomad people living in Asia, they started to move towards the west, all together with other tribes and with other ethnicities as well. This part of our history is still very, very unclear, right? When I studied it in school, in primary school, we learned about 500 years. Now new researchers are suggesting that our entire journey only took 50 years from the point that we started to define ourselves Hungarians. So there are a lot of big open questions here. But what we are more or less sure about is that by the end of the 9th century, so in the last decade of the 800s, the Hungarians came to this region, the Carpathian Basin, which at that time didn't belong to any of the other already existing European empires. So there have been some people here and there living, but they were not organized enough, to resist to the new occupiers. So that's why we did conquest this land. But what do you think our new neighbors were happy that we came? I doubt it, because our first move in the new homeland was to rob out everybody in a close neighborhood. Went to the neighbors, took their kids, took their women, took their food, took their fortune. And it doesn't really work out. So if you move to a new neighborhood and you knock at the door of the next door neighbor and you just rob out the fridge and then disappear, they're not gonna be happy, I'm telling you that, right? But that's how the nomad people typically live. They get what they want, they get what they need without asking. Now after 100 years we realized that in Europe there's no more space to move on when everybody already hates us, like we were doing that in Asia. So there was a wise king who decided that we have to adopt now to a settled lifestyle. Now this king was called Stephen, and he seemed that adopting a new religion would be the first step that we have to make to fit in the European continent, right? So that's how he made Roman Catholicism to be the state religion, and in return for his action he was rewarded with a crown from the Vatican, which basically meant that the Vatican accepted Hungary as being a legal state with a legal monarch, and for all the other nations and people who worship the same God, he was not allowed anymore to attack us. Yay! Protection, legalization for us, money for the church, of course, because so that's how we became Catholics. The Catholicization and the establishment of our country happened exactly 1000 on the 1st of January. I guess Stephen wanted you to remember the date, right? So you have chosen one nice rounded up number, easy to remember. So Hungary officially exists since 1000. But when the king died, and that happened in 1038, and there have been pagan uprisings still around. So we wanted to give an evidence to the Vatican that we adopted this religion successfully. There are just some resistance all around. So we decided to canonize the king. But it was not that easy, because Stephen never carried out any miracles during his life. And that's like, a bottom line if you want to become a saint. So the king of later time, 50 years after his death, finally decided that at least we should open up the coffin of Stephen, and that's when the miracle happened. What would you expect, 50 years after the death of somebody, how the corpse would look like, right? Yeah, but instead we opened up the coffin and some rose scent came out of it.
What?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And people started to heal miraculously next to the dead body of our king. There was possibly a guy limping, felt the rose scent, and they walked away. How does this sound? Fake?
Yeah.
Yeah, fake news these days. legends. Nobody called these things lies, right? In tourism we call them legends. In America, fake news is the right term for such a thing. There was no internet, right? There were no data thieves. There was not a very deep investigation. We said it so the Vatican wanted to believe. So yeah, miracles. So Stephen was canonized. That's why we refer to him in these days as Saint Stephen, the first Catholic saint of our country. And this big church is dedicated to him, but the church is much, much younger. It was only built in the 1850s. That's the largest one of the city. The reason for building the church was rather a sad one. In 1838, the city suffered a big flood. The level of the river was over 2 meters. And here, somewhere up to your hips still, and you will see that we have a little distance from the riverbank. And basically, 70% of the houses of the Budapest side have collapsed. So that was the time, the second half of the 19th century, when Pest went under a big reconstruction. And the people, being glad that they survived the big flood, promised a huge church for God. So this is what you're looking at. But it seems that as the flood was slipping away, the enthusiasm of building the big church was also slipping away, because it took them 60 years to collect enough money to complete this church. 60 years, and not the youngest architects were working on such a big piece, you can imagine. So 2 of them passed away before the church was ready. The first one designed the neoclassical church. That's what you see on the lower part, with the more elegant straight lines, not too over-decorated, very simple, elegant figures as well. But when he died, the second architect continued in Neo-Renaissance, which is an Italian taste style. That's what you see on the upper part. And when he died, the third architect finished the interior with Neo-Baroque. If you would like to go in, you can. It's officially free. But I tell you how it works. There's a big donation box at the entrance. The donation box says you, or tells you, that how much is the proper donation. It's €1 or 300 forints, so it's not an extreme thing. And if you try to, slip next to the donation box, then there's a grumpy guy next to it coming on your way and pointing out the thing, you know?
Really?
So this is how it works. I'm not going to do that at the end. I'm not going to block it. Not to be able to live without the thing. Also, for 1,000 forint, you can go up to the dome of the church. From the other side, when we look down on Pest, you're going to see that this is one of the highest buildings on the flat side. So you will have a really nice view from the terrace. It's 5 times cheaper than the Ferris wheel. It's not moving. So you have unlimited time, and it's even a little bit higher than the Ferris wheel. So if you ask me, then this one is a better option than the other one. I just saved you €8 or €9 with that information. I hope you're going to think about that, when it comes to the tipping part. And good questions.
So when you said you guys came from Asia, is it like more Middle Eastern?
We have at least 8 theories, or I personally read about 8 different theories. The most extreme ones are putting our homeland to 2 days Mongolia, which is basically the other end. The not as extreme ideas are telling that it was just the other side of the Ural mountain, which is the natural border between Europe and Asia, now the territory of Russia. And in between these 2 theories, you have the entire Asian continent. So that's how much we are unsecure about our early history. It's hard to tell. I have a history teacher friend who put this into, I think, a pretty good metaphor. So I'm going to tell you that. Or allegory. Okay, so imagine a big table. That's the map of Asia and Europe. Put there different colored painting patches. Those are the different people and ethnicities living there. Okay, the Hungarians are here. They are at Teddy. You stand at one end of the table and you do like this. Ooh, okay, we arrive. And what you have on the Teddy, when you arrive to the other end of the table, now those are the Hungarians coming from. Possibly different languages were spoken, possibly different religions were practiced, and possibly all ethnicities were represented in this nomad nation who started to call itself as Hungarians, right? So really, that's We don't know. That's why we feel a little bit rootless. But at the same time, this leaves a lot of chance to create your own origin legend, right? So it's like, be creative. What you like to promote, to put that. That's it. That's what we do. Time to time, we go creative about the origin. Good. Any other questions? The guys who really deserve a reputation in this form are the guys who are really making our lives better, and those are
Winemakers.
the winemakers. Or winemakers, everyone in this way. Yeah, the real stars of the country. Right? Yeah, the real celebrity. Hungary is traditionally a winemaking country. So with wine we have a much longer history. We have 22 wine regions, specialized in different type of wines. Sweet wines, dry wines, red, rosé, and white. Yeah. Red,
White,
rosé,
red,
white.
rosé.
Yeah, I got both the three categories. So it's really hard to find the best wines, but it's much easier if you look down here and you put down these names. These are the men's and the names that you have to search for on the labels. I really love the 2019, the 2017 and the 2011 winners. Those are my type of wines. Good, let's go on. You've been robbed out. Don't worry for a minute. God is going to punish the criminal. That's it. Jobs carried out by God or by karma, whatever. But this way you had to do nothing. And I guess that must be the reason why he got so fat. But in Hungary, this is actually a desired shape. The belly stands for prosperity and for wealth in our country. Not a surprise. We live in a flat land that has not just rich fields and rich soil, but a lot of water as well. So all the perfect conditions for agricultural work. And after we settled down, this became the main feature of our country. Hungary always been a peasant country, which kind of divided our society to two main classes, the landlords and the peasants, right? And the peasants are poor workers, they have to do this hard physical activity of planting, watering, then harvesting. The fat guys were always the rich landlords, right? So we created this image that once you're fat, then you must have a content, wealthy, prospering life. And we are doing pretty fine because at the moment, Hungary is the 4th most obese country of this planet. We've made it there! Sorry?
So the food must be really good.
So yeah, the food is good, but not necessarily healthy at the same time.
Not at all.
Especially because, okay, in restaurants this habit and costume is changing. It's introduced us to paprika and we fell in love. And then we realized that the lard is able to bring out the most layers and the best flavor of paprika. So that became the holy trinity of the Hungarian cuisine. Lard, onion and paprika. That's the three that we are always using. But it seems that to the west, the gulyás arrived in a form of a stew. But the original signature Hungarian gulyás is a soup.
Oh.
That's a soup. There should be a soup. That's made with diced beef meat. Of course, lard and paprika and onion. Potato and carrot and some family recipes, some dumpling as well. You need to be served a slice of white bread that you can dip into the rich paprika sauce. We love to dip. Even in Michelin-star restaurants, you can see the Hungarians going down to the elbow in their plates. We love that, right? So gulyás is a soup. Now, the Hungarian dishes also have another problem. Can you come a little bit closer from that side to me as well? Good. That all dishes have terrible Hungarian names. And we are doing this job for long enough time to know that you're never going to be able to learn the names of our other dishes. So we've made a printed list for you that you can take with yourself to a restaurant, and it's going to make everything easier. So you sit down, you're definitely going to end up with an international menu. The proper Hungarian restaurants are not good. Hungarians don't eat at places where only Hungarian dishes are served. I mean, just think about it. If I want to eat a gulyás, then I go to the market, I buy the ingredients and I cook. If I go out in the restaurant and I spend more money on eating, then I want something new, right? I want to taste something new. So the Hungarian restaurants with only Hungarian choices, no, tourist trap, don't go there. So go instead to these mixed restaurants and choose or check out the menu. These are the Hungarian choices. So it's not that easy. We have a theory. We think that that's the language. Because it's so hard and overcomplicated, you have to be a genius to learn it. But that's what happens to you, at the age of 3 when you learn this language. So as we came from Asia, our language is an Asian one. We don't belong to the Indo-European language family, but our team is called the Finno-Ugrian one. So that means that the Finnish and also the Estonian speak something that's similar, but not the vocabulary, the grammar, what's similar. The grammar is an agglutinative one, which means that we are not only conjugating our verbs, but we have suffixes and prefixes that we have to attach to the other words in a sentence as well. So the adverbs, the nouns can all get suffixes. Instead of standalone prepositions, for example, right? We don't say on the table, but the Hungarian is adding on as a form of a suffix to the end of the word table. So it's like table on. That's what we do as well. We use 18 cases. So when I choose a case, of course, I have to adjust everything to the choosing case. So that's what we use, these suffixes for. And we are basically unlimited in how many suffixes we add to the same word. So that's the reason why we have sometimes these monstrous long words. The longest Hungarian expression is this one. We start with a one little syllable word, szent, which means saint in Hungarian, but I can make it this long. Megszentségteleníthetetlenségeskedéseitekért. This is one word. Ooh. This is one word. And the rest what you heard were just the suffixes and the prefixes. Right, so if that's not enough, we also have an incredible alphabet with 44 sounds in it. 44. Yeah. Would you like to hear? How does that sound?
Currency is so difficult as well.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you the Hungarian alphabet. I'm not going to sing it because I don't want to torture you, and because we do not have an alphabet song. Come on, this is the most sad thing you ever heard in your life. A country without an alphabet song. But once I tell you the alphabet, you're going to understand why. Okay, so there we go. O, A, B, C, G, D, Z, G, E, I, F, G, J, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, Ö, P, Q, R, S, T, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, J.
Sound like a song to me.
Yeah.
Cheers. You can make it, believe. So, hello in Hungarian is hello.
I was waiting for.
Yeah. Hello. Good. Or you can use also a more Hungarian equivalent, the more Hungarian translation. Szia.
Szia.
Szia. Good.
Szia.
Now you know how to say hello. Yeah. Why?
Szia.
I'm laughing because you're probably making fun of us. So when we enter the restaurant, we say bye, something like that.
No, of course I don't. That's how you know me. Come on. So I would like to have. That's an easy thing because the Hungarian is conjugating. When we ask for something, we just literally ask for it, right? You don't need a long phenomenon, but one simple verb, which is kérek.
Kira.
And this is formal and informal, very polite at the same time. Excellent. Good. What do you want? If you want some beer, the word for beer is sör.
Sure.
Roll the tip of your tongue a little bit to form this Hungarian. Sure. Yeah, half of my friends had to take an extra class in kindergarten to learn this rolling Hungarian art. So that's when our misery starts, as early as in our childhood. Okay, wine is bor. And coffee is kávé. Now form this R properly. That's the most open vowel in our language, so you have to drop your jaw as wide as it is possible. I want to see your throat when you form this A sound. Kávé. You see, you sound much more Hungarian when you do it that way. Okay, I tell you what's the tricky part, grammar comes.
Oh.
When
Then they're
I
gonna say, "What's wrong
ask
with your
for
mouth?"
something, then a sentence will have a
Yeah,
subject.
subject.
And we do have to mark the subject, otherwise we're not going to understand the sentence. And what do you ask for? Whoa, where's the subject, you know? Are you asking for a hello? Well, what is happening here? So the subject, in all grammar concept, always gets a T letter. And this iron thing that lingers down consists of links. That's the chain point. It goes underneath the ground, in the middle of this roundabout, and also on the opposite side. So that's how the bridge is based on the two. And 1849 is the year, but at that time the Hungarian technology was not at that point yet to build such a bridge over such a wide river. So the design was borrowed from the UK, also the first material to the bridge. The supervisor of the construction was a Scottish one, so this is an important bridge, let's be honest with it. Oh yes, I'm really proud of it. And the supervisor, Adam Clark, the Scottish man, was also so proud of his masterpiece when he finished the bridge that in 1849 he told the Hungarians that he built the perfect bridge here. And he added that if he proved it otherwise, then he's going to commit suicide by jumping off into the river. Okay, Mr. Clark, challenge accepted. And guess what happened? In a country full of geniuses. Oh yeah, we found something, of course. So, did you find what we found out? What is missing of the lion's then? The tails are there. Some teeth is missing, yeah, but that's you to vandalism. What's not there are the tongues. These lions don't have tongues. 4 missing tongues for a reason, Mr. Clark, to act like you promised, you know? And he was a gentleman. And it was the 19th century, so he had to keep his given word. So he really walked to the middle of the bridge. He pushed himself up, and jumped off. And we never seen him again. End of story. Fake news? Legend. In tourism, legend. That's how we call it. No, it's not true. Because the lions have their tongues. But to see those, you have to climb up to take a look directly in their open mouth. So many of us trying to check it out. And as they were climbing up, they always grabbed the tooths of the lions. That's why some of the teeth is missing. Some of the lions are toothless, but they have tongues, right? That's the main point here. So the bridge was perfect, and the guy was commissioned with a new project, with a new job, to cut a shortcut underneath the hill. That's how the tunnel was created. Now at the end, Adam Clark made a pretty nice money out of these two major projects. So you know what happened to him? As a wealthy guy, he moved to Budapest. Yeah, he did. I guess he started to grow the belly of the rich as well, so he was becoming attractive for the local ladies. At the end, he got married to a Hungarian woman, they got kids, and they spent the rest of their life happily ever after in the romantic town of Buda. Yeah. Another boring Hollywood story, right? That's the reason why we are not promoting the true story, only the legend, but that was fair. I told you both, so it's gonna be your decision which one you're telling to you. That's the story of the chain bridge. 1849. That means that the bridge originally connected the still separate towns of Buda and Pest, because the unification of these two only happened in 1873. Because we were jealous to Vienna, which is already a large metropolis to our west. But instead of building one large city, they realized that if we unify 3 smaller towns, we're gonna have to save this on, right? So, not going to see a grumpy big grey building with high walls and with small windows around. This is the castle. So this is the royal part of it. This big building is our royal palace, but unfortunately not the original one, because that piece was destroyed not once during its history. Buda altogether fell under a siege 37 or 38 times in its history. So that assures constant change. The first royal palace was built in the 1400s, and there was a beautiful Gothic building. But in the 1500s, Hungary was visited by the Ottoman Turks. That visitation lasted for 150 years' time. All right? So 150 years under the Muslim rule, the Turks used the former royal palace as a warehouse. It was a rabia structure with dry rooms. So they figured it out that this is a perfect place to keep their gunpowder dry. And you know what happens if you have a bunch of gunpowder in your basement? Yeah, you have to wait just a little bit for it, because sooner or later that's definitely going to explode, right? 1686 was the time when the Turks were threatening Vienna and also the Vatican. So Europe finally recruited an army, the Sacra League, which was sent here, and they liberated Buda. And in the fight between this Christian army and the Muslim armies, the royal palace basically exploded and almost completely disappeared. So what now you see is from the 1700s. But after the Turkish occupation, that this Christian army liberated us, also with the same move, Hungary got occupied for another time. You know, the leaders of the army came, they loved this land, and they decided to stay. It's in ruins, but really this territory has the opportunity, so stay. 230 years of Habsburg occupation started in this way for the Hungarians that lasted till the end of the First World War. Now we were rebelling a lot against the Austrians, but we lost all of our attempts. That's why I told you that we are the losers of history. In the last 500 years, we were not able to win one single uprising, revolution, or freedom fight, or world war. Not even one. Right? So, welcome. Good. So the Habsburgs. Our relationship was complicated, and it was shifting a lot. But in the 19th century, we were like trying to put our relationship in a new establishment, cooperating instead of keep fighting and annoying each other. So the royal palace was extended with this last wing, and on the other side another wing. So now what we speak about is an elbow-shaped building, and not the royal couple itself, so not Franz Joseph and Sissi, but a relative, the Palatine, the local governor, could move in. So that was the purpose of the building. Then in the First World War, Hungary became an independent country. We were a monarchy, but Europe didn't want us to unify again with the Habsburgs, so we didn't have a monarch. But the head of the state became the admiral. But after the First World War, we lost all the seashores. So we had a monarchy without the monarch, but instead an admiral without a seashore. Very complicated, not a very stable system. That made us to join the Second World War. And the Second World War was another bad decision for us. We managed to end up on the loser side, as I formally mentioned that. And in the big siege of Budapest that lasted for 102 days, which makes this battle one of the worst ones of the entire history of the Second World War, the royal palace was heavily damaged. It lost its entire roof. Then the communists came to power. And they didn't really like royalties anymore, neither the rich Baroque style of this building, because the Baroque was recalling Catholicism and the Catholic Church itself. So they make it short to renovate the building, but not in an appropriate way. And a lot of decorations and elements had disappeared from the facade. Plus, they emptied the building. So when you go into the royal palace, don't expect for a lot of gold and marble everywhere and posh furniture and such. No. They opened the Labour and Movements Museum inside. It was a gesture, you know, that this is where the royalty live, who always exploited you workers, but we, the communists, are giving the building back to you. And at the same time, we're running that brainwashing propaganda on you, right? The Labour and Movements Museum. And later it just didn't make sense to refurbish the royal palace. I mean, after the Second World War, Hungary was not a monarchy anymore. It is not a monarchy in these days. It's a democratic republic, so the head of the state is the president. who really rules us and messes up things, that's the Prime Minister. He has the real power, right? So the President is the figurehead. So we open new museums inside. The National Gallery is in this long wing. There's a history museum in the smaller part of the elbow shape, and there's the National Library as well on the opposite side. So that's it. That's what you can find inside. National Gallery, does it worth to visit? Only if you're interested in classic paintings. I mean, dark ones, aristocrats posing in front of a dark background, and that's mainly that. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm also like that. Yeah, another one. Okay, another one. Okay, another local. So who's interested in that? But now the National Gallery has a temporary exhibition. It's a wonderful thing of black and white 20th century photos of city life. Amazing. So it's just characters, you know, mainly they focus on characters of the 20th century, of local things. There's an online website which collected photos that were thrown out by local people. They literally went for the garbage and they started to digitalize these photos. It's available online as well, but it's so nice that they printed it out and they organized an exhibition of the greatest selection of all these photos. So if you want to go, then there's the Forteban exhibition. It's a photo exhibition that I can recommend inside the gallery. Good, questions? But he's not dressed as a king. So I'm challenging you to find who's the royal member of all these figures. Which guy?
The left one.
The one sitting with the thing.
The right one.
Like a shop.
Say the dog. Yeah, poor Matthias. He's not a very attractive guy. Yeah. You can figure that out. In the blue banknote, the 1,000 banknote, here's the decoration. So if you would like to see the face of the king. And here's the top figure. Here's the top figure. The left-hand side one is his bio writer. He's an Italian man, Bonfili. The one who was making up fake stories about the life of Matthias. He lived in the 1400s.
He's alive. He's
So
alive.
first of all, before. Oh yeah, that's the one. He's the one. Oh wow.
He's a liar.
Yeah, I know. You know, this is a new print, and we realize that on the new print, Matthias takes more and more after for actual Prime Minister. Ooh. Maybe on the next one he's gonna come with a haircut. And we're like transforming, you know? Local joke, yeah, I know. I'm not correct politically. I haven't warned you about that, right? Yeah. Not a politically correct tour that you're participating. Okay, so Matthias lived in the 1400s before the big disasters all happened. The Ottoman occupation, the Habsburg occupation, right? Our country was thriving under Matthias. We minted 2/3 of the gold of Europe. We've been rich and we will keep expanding our borders so much that Matthias was even able to occupy Vienna. And of course, if you ask a Hungarian to recall some better days, we're going to speak about the 3 years when we ruled Vienna, and not the 230 when it was the opposite way around. Was he a popular figure? Now he is. But back then, I mean, he spent a lot of money on his mercenary army and on this campaign that he finally fulfilled and that with which he succeeded, right? But at the same time, the common people, the poor. But the common people are not writing books. How do we remember Matthias? As the star of folklore tales and legends, in which he's always showing up as a wise king who dresses up as some average beggar or some average people. He goes to the countryside to dwell amongst his people, and at the end, at those households where he's treated well as a beggar, he returns as a rich king, giving a fortune to the family. And so the left-hand side guy was responsible for creating these stories of the king. He knew how the propaganda works, right? Already at that time. If you would like to see some of these stories on YouTube, there is a YouTube channel with an animation series that's about Hungarian folklore tales. That's the name of the channel, Hungarian Folklore Tales. Wonderful thing. Under communism in the 70s, we started this series. different vocals from different region of the country combined with the music that refers to that region. It's a lovely piece. It's art. It's pure animation. It's pure art. Now with English dubbing on the internet available. So go for that. There are a couple of stories of Matthias as well. So here's the top figure. Now you would believe that he was a successful guy and he was all satisfied with his life. Like everybody, he had his own misery. And that was the shame of his father's origins. Because his father was a talented general. But once Matthias was sitting on the throne of Vienna, he wanted to have, you know, a real royal father, a real royal origins. So what happened? The story was made up.
Oh god.
How many great are the other ones, right?
So
according
liars.
to this story, the grandmother had a love affair with the former king of Hungary. A love affair because both Granny and the king were already married when this little intercourse happened, so naughty, naughty Granny, cheating on Grandpa. Naughty Matthias, you know, making up a gossip about his own grandma cheating on his grandpa. Thing is that. So, Granny lived in Transylvania. That's where she gave birth to the father of Matthias. But the king was trying not to lose touch with the family, right? Sending letters and money and educators as well. And also a unique golden ring telling that once the boy is old enough, then he should come to him in the Buda royal court. Wearing the ring is going to prove that they have the relationship, right? But one day, a disaster almost happened when the family, for some strange reason, left the ring in the middle of the kitchen table. And a blackbird, a crawler, broke into the flat. Yeah, it's easy to find out the rest of the story. Picked up the ring and tried to flew away with it. But the stepfather was close enough. He managed to clear the bird and he saved the ring. Of course, the stepfather was a good businessman. He knew that that ring means a lot of money for his household. So he saved the ring, and the second generation, Matthias, could make it to the Hungarian throne. Not a word is true out of this story, but this is one of those other bedtime stories that we tell about the king. And that's the reason why, as we continue that way, you're going to see a black bird on the top of a gate over there with a golden ring in its beak, and you're going to see the same symbol on the Matthias church as well. Matthias applied this bird into his crest, into his coat of arms, and he tried to establish a new royal dynasty that was named after the Latin name of the crow, Corvinus. I guess he was embarrassed by his Hungarian name. He was originally called as Hunyadi Mátyás. Now imagine if you're trying to attend, you know, a royal party in France, let's say, and you come to the door and you say that, I'm the Hungarian and Austrian King Hunyadi Mátyás. How are you going to react? What? Leslie, what did you say? Hunyadi Mátyás? No way, we don't know such a king by that name, right? But if he said, Matthias Rex Corvinus?
Hey, Matthias.
Nice, please come in. Of course, the Latin culture was important at that time. Not the Hungarian, but the Latin was in use in the room. Good. Questions? No. So, go for the animation series. We're going to go checking out the Slovakian delegation. Don't forget to take a look on the bird. Go that way.
So far, Budapest have been disappointed. So far, so good. So let's keep going. Show you more than I was.